seminar and webinar also. Implementation of new education policy 2020, a way forward. Organized by Center for Staff Training and Development, CSTD, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University, Hyderabad. It is my proud privilege to welcome all our guests and invitees for today's program. May I now welcome today's chief guest, Professor Limbadri. He is joining through online. He is already there. We welcome you, sir, Limbadri, once again, Chairman, State Council of Higher Education, Telangana State, Hyderabad. Now I welcome Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Sitaramaravu Garu. Please come onto the stage and occupy the chair, sir. I welcome Professor K. Sitaramaravu Garu. Also, I welcome Garu, IAS, Commissioner, College and Technical Education, and Principal Secretary, Revenue, Stamps and Registrations, TCLA, etc., Government of Telangana. Welcome you, sir, once again, Naveen Mittal Garu. And also I welcome Professor Sudharani Garu, Director Academic in charge. I welcome once again Sudharani Garu. Kindly come onto the stage and occupy the chair. It's my privilege to welcome today's program director and CST Director, Professor I. Anand Pawar Garu. Kindly come onto the stage and occupy the chair, sir. We recognize all the directors, deans, heads of the branches, and various faculty members, and teaching and non-teaching staff members, and service association members are also present here. Now I request Dr. Sridevi Garu kindly present a flower bouquet to our Vice Chancellor Garu, Honorable Vice Chancellor. Yes, Arna Kumari Garu, Srimati Arna Kumari Garu, kindly present a bouquet to Sudharani Madam, Professor Sudharani Madam. Thank you, Madam. Now I request P. Rachel, kindly present a flower bouquet to our Professor Anand Pawar Garu. Thank you, sir. I request all the dignitaries on the dais kindly proceed for the lighting of the lamp. Sorry, sir. Professor Ravinder, Vice Chancellor of Usmania University, also joined through online, sir. We welcome Ravinder, sir, once again through online, sir. Now I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Sitaramaravu Garu, President of today's program, kindly to conduct further proceedings. Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much. Good quality. I once again and will invite for all to this program, seminar of Vietnam on implementation of National Education Policy 2020, a way forward. A lot of exercise has been done to organize this program. And we have invited eminent speakers from national level, especially Dr. Nirmaljeet Singh Kalsi, who is main person behind the adopting of the National Credits Framework. And also from UGC, Singh Yadav, and is another person who is very prominent and very popular academician. Vijay Rao, Vice Chancellor of Hyderabad Central University. So after this brief inaugural function, and the main guests, main speakers will take over the session and they will address the session on 3 different topics. That is, one is on implementation of educational policy in state universities, issued academies. Another one is on national credits framework and its adaptation to various problems and prospectus and all that. And another important policy dimension of this. So thank you very much, sir, for joining the session. We welcome you. And another important policy dimension of national education policy is academic bank of credits. And issues involved in it are deciding the grades, equivalency, and transfer of credits. These are the main 3 themes which we have selected as part of the this seminar. I request Madam to state our objective. Thank you. Organization of the session. Now I request Professor Anand Pawar, Director, CSPD and Seminar Director, to briefly explain about the program.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. Respected President of this program, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Sitaram Rao Garu, Honorable Chief Guest, Professor R. Limbadri Garu, Chairman, State Council of Higher Education, Guest of Honors, Sri Naveen Mittalji, IAS, Commissioner of Collegiate and Technical Education, and Principal Secretary, Registration, Stamps, CCLA, Government of Telangana, Hyderabad. Professor E. Sudharani, Director Academic in Charge, BRAOU, and Professor D. Ravinder, Vice Chancellor, Usmania University, Hyderabad. And also invite Dr. A.V.R.N. Reddy, our Registrar, and other dignitaries on the dais, Professor B.J. Rao Garu, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Hyderabad Central University, is being with us, and very kind of you, sir, for accepting our invitation. And other dignitaries on the dais, and all the directors, heads of branches, colleagues, media persons, ladies and gentlemen. A very good afternoon and hearty welcome to all to this one-day seminar on New Education Policy 2020, the way forward. So we all of us know about the NEP policy being implemented, started implementing by the Government of India through its all the institutions, including state universities. However, there are some states which are not come forward to implement the same. However, we are all looking after the initiatives by the state governments to go ahead with the policy matters. Before we proceed into the program, I must ask 3 questions to find the answers through this webinar or seminar from the eminent speakers from NCEVT, UGC, and also the other speakers from Usmania University State Council and also Professor B.J. Rao garu. What is NEP? What are the objectives of NEP and objectives to be achieved through this NEP? Why and how should we implement NEP in these universities? So NEP, we all of us know, lays emphasis on making education more holistic and effective integration of general education to professional education or vocational education, and ensuring vertical and horizontal mobility of students from these 2 streams, from general education to vocational streams. And it is built on this NEP policy is built on 5 fundamental pillars known as access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. Thereby, it strives to transform India into a vibrant knowledge society and to make global knowledge superpower, that is Vishwaguru. As we all of us know, Government of India initiated necessary measures based on SDG 4, that is Sustainable Development Goals 4, which talks about ensuring inclusive, equitable, quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. So this, with the same motto, BRAOU has been implementing the ODL programs to reach all, and now the NEP also making the same. It means we have been implementing similar initiatives right from the beginning. So with this opening remarks of this and this seminar objective would be, seminar is taken to to share and discuss the applicability and implementation of NEP effectively in education institutions across the country, especially in the state universities. So after having this session, program on NEP 2020, the expected outcomes of this program are to ensure Indian higher education system more accessible, equitable, qualitative, affordable, and accountable in the state universities, and able to integrate and adopt the national credit framework and the academic bank of credits in higher education. Keeping this in view, the following seminar themes were identified and the eminent speakers were invited from UGC and also from Hyderabad. So the major themes of this program would be the implementation of NEP in the state universities, issues and challenges, and then adoption of national credit framework. And third theme would be academic bank of credits policy, the criteria for deciding credits equivalency and transfer, for which we have invited 3 eminent speakers to deliver their talk. So, and we made all the participants open to all this program, the vice chancellors of all universities, officials of State Council of Higher Education, teachers of all universities and colleges, academicians, policymakers, research scholars, students in the state of Telangana. However, this program is made open to all and being telecast through Zoom and YouTube. So this is all about the program, sir. We have an eminent speaker with us, Professor B.J. Rao garu, Central University Vice Chancellor, Hyderabad. So with this, I would like to thank the president of this program. Thank you, sir.
I once again welcome you all. Honorable guests on the dais, especially Professor B.J. Rao garu, who is very kind enough to accept our invitation and came over here. Professor Sudharani, Director Academic in Charge, and Professor Anand Pawar, Director of this study and also Director of this program. And then the chief guest, Professor Limbadri Garu, who is there on the line, online, and Professor Ravinder, guest of honor. He is also joined in this program on through virtual mode. And we are expecting Sri Naveen Mittal to join online. And however, speakers from Delhi, they are also going to join online mode. So, as Professor Pawar has already explained about the program and its objectives, why we have taken up this program and all that. As a presidential opening remarks, I don't want to go into the details of what is an EP, what are its objectives, and how it should be implemented. All that is meant for debate. Already the debate is going on continuously in our country. But whatever it is, in my opinion, NEP 2020 as a policy per se, it need not be opposed. Why? Because no doubt it is a transformative policy. It has a lot of potentiality. Change our educational system and take our system to a higher level. But the whole debate is about how to implement it. That is the problem. So, because of the diversity of our education system in India, various higher education institutions, central institutions, state universities, private universities, open universities, different types of universities, technical universities, and single subject universities, multidisciplinary subject and oriented universities, all these are there, standalone institutions. There are so many types of institutions are functioning in our country. So, here comes the question of implementation of the policy. But various aspects which were discussed in the policy are no doubt they are useful, they are novel, and they must be taken very seriously, and they must be analyzed and understood, and we have to plan them properly and programize them to implement it effectively. So, in this process, still debate is going on. Some of the state governments have not accepted. They are opposing. And some of the states have totally, they are not interested. Some states have neither said yes or no. This type of political complexity is also there to understand. But in this context, what we should do? This is the question. So, as academicians, who are responsible for managing and running the higher education institutions, must take more responsibility to sort out these issues and take a lead to understand the policy properly. And they must also customize the policy to their requirements and needs. Then they must be. But the letter and spirit of the policy should not be diluted. With that broad aim, we should adopt and adapt the policy frame to our institution. But this exercise is not that simple. It takes so many, you must take so many aspects into consideration. Here, I remember the Harold J. Laswell's policy implementation model. It is very, very, very popular. Even now it is being discussed, adopted and all that. Policy formulation, planning and programming, decision-making, implementation, and evaluation, policy evaluation. These are the 5 important dimensions he explained in his model of policy analysis. But finally, these 5 dimensions are not sufficient now in this present context. We have to add some more aspects. That is creating awareness about among all stakeholders of the policy. First, the policy must be owned by the stakeholders. Otherwise, unless they own it, unless they feel that belongs to them, implementation is not possible. Our purpose is to create that awareness through these programs like this. And another dimension is inter-institutional, intergovernmental coordination. This cannot be achieved very simply. It also involves so many aspects. And apart from that, you have to create various institutional mechanisms at various levels to ensure the effective implementation of the policy. Apart from this, finally, you need sufficient financial and human resources to implement the policy. There, we are lagging far, far behind, especially state universities. So, in my opinion, whatever the policy dimensions of the NEP 2020 are, they are per se, they are good. They are highly transformative. They are potential to change the system. But how to customize them, how to programize them to our needs, and how to implement them is a big challenge. But various political, social, administrative, legal, financial, technical issues are involved in this process. We have to sort out, we have to analyze, we have to take into. So these are the various aspects I do feel, but especially for open universities also, it is a very big challenge. It's a National Education Policy 2020 not only opened up the opportunities for all universities, including open universities, but it has created a lot of competition also. Because all conventional universities also can adapt to multi-mode and multimedia system of education in their own limits with the within the regulatory framework of the UGC and all that. But all these factors keeping in our mind, we have to understand the policy framework and also implementation of the policy. So in order to understand the policy better, in order to create awareness among the stakeholders, in order to implement the policy in an effective manner, such programs are mostly needed. So I don't want to take much of the time. Now I request Professor D. Ravinder, who is there in virtual mode, I request him to speak on this occasion, especially keeping in view the academic bank of credits and its adaptation. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Shall we wait for 1 or 2 minutes? Madam,
sir. Sir, Madam,
okay. Meanwhile, I request in charge, Professor Sundarani, to give her message.
Program. Respected President of Organization, our Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Pitaram Rao garu, guest Vijay Rao garu, Chief Guest of today's webinar, Professor R. Limbadri Garu, Chairman, TSTCHE, and Ravin Mittal Garu and Ravindra Garu. We're waiting for them to join. And the president of today's webinar, Anand Pawar, Professor Anand Pawar, Director CSP, fellow directors, deans, heads of departments, branches, teaching and knowledge. Today's topic is very much because we are the first, Open University is the first to organize a seminar by Professor V.N. Prasad Garu on soon after 9, the policy is being declared, implementation of national education policy. We had a talk by Professor V. Prasad Garu, in 2020, wherein we discussed at length what is the policy and how to go about, and what is the role of Ambedkar Open University, the ODL system, particularly Ambedkar Open University. So clearly opined that the basic tenets of national education policy are in tune with the ODL system, because they're well equipped, rather than they have been practicing this flexible mode of education since the beginning, following all the modes of delivery systems and reaching the unreached and reaching the largest segments of the population through education, higher education. So NEP was based on, 2020 is based on the recommendations of Education Commission 1964-60, which aimed at radical restructuring of Indian education system, equalized opportunity for all. They are in tune with the constitutional provisions and national integration, better economic and cultural development. Through education, they aimed at economic and cultural development for all. So NEP 2020 also aimed by 2040, education should be equalized, equal access to higher education for all, regardless of the background and the past or the background which they come in. So this is very clear in emphasizing reaching the unreached segments of the population. So universal access to global education, national integration, cultural preservation are the three main goals of the NEP. And they are in tune with the Sustainable Development Goals, Goal 4 of 2030, by education for all by 2030. So this this opportunities to reap the fruits of higher education to the last who are so far away from these fruits of the development. So NEP itself acknowledged the gap between the current state of learning outcomes and what is required must be bridged. This is a major challenge which NEP emphasized in its policy itself, in the beginning of the policy itself. The current status of learning outcomes and what is required to bridge the through the undertaking major reforms that through quality, equity, integrity into the system. So this is the challenge which I could see, and it has to be inculcated from the childhood, it opined. So new ways of learning have emerging, process of lifelong learning, educational, they are in terms of knowledge and skills. So not only knowledge, the skill education is also important, that is emphasized by NEP. We need more to spread the learning and results, the research ecosystems in our higher education portals of higher education. This is an area which have to be focused. And in open universities are moving towards the open and digital learning, quickly adopting to the innovations and changes in the science and technology. And Ambedkar Open University, for the sake of our guest, Vijay Rao sir must be knowing about it. The first in adopting to the new changes, we have the education system, which is integrated not only into the print, but also learning medias like, AVPRC, like videos, audio system. Now, recently, we are posting in YouTube, accessing lakhs and lakhs of the viewers. And thereby, not only the students of Ambedkar University, but mostly the common people are also gaining the knowledge of the experienced professors in our university and outside also, experts. So NEP all focused on the for the changed employment landscape also. So the education and employment should go together. Creative, multidisciplinary education. NEP focused on more multidisciplinary approach, experiential, holistic, integrated, inquiry-driven, discussion-based, and flexible, enjoyable, making the learning enjoyable, well-rounded, useful, fulfilling the learner needs, and also enable the learner to build the character, ethical, to be rational, to be compassionate, and caring also. So these are the noble virtues which are enunciated in NEP policy, and not only from the science and maths, but also emphasize arts, crafts, the sports, and the language and literature, and the culture to be taught in the beginning itself. So this value loaded, as well said by our Vice Chancellor, it's very well formulated, very well researched upon the policy. However, when it comes to the practicality, taking care of the implementation agency, is the best is the most challengeable aspect which we are facing in. And also the implementation throughout India is becoming day by day somewhat some are critical, as well said by our Vice Chancellor. But however, we need to take the spirit of the NEP and move forward, bettering ourselves in meeting the needs of the future. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Sudharani, for your brief and message. It has not joined. So, there is a small change in the program. Professor Ravinder is going to join the session in the third session. Since one speaker from Delhi, UGC, Professor Vinod Singh Yadavji, expressed the inability to check meeting the UGC and to speak on the topic. Now I request our chief guest of this program, Professor R. Libatri, give his address. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Professor Libatri.
Respected dignitaries on the dais, Professor P.J. Rao Garu, Vice Chancellor, University of Hyderabad, Sir Sitaram Rao Garu, Vice Chancellor, Ambedkar Open University, Sir Sudharani, Professor Anand Pawar, and all the dignitaries and the delegates from the different parts of the country. So good afternoon, everyone. The Ambedkar Open University organizing seminar on implementation of National Education Policy 2020, a way forward. We have been organizing number of seminars about the National Education Policy 2020. This is one of the unique policy in the country which will addressing the many issues, challenges to improve the quality education in the country. For that, in view of this 21st century requirements, 21st century skills, the policy tried to provide basic things like every speaker also spoke about access, affordability, equity, and quality. These are the pillars of this national education policy. And this national education policy provides the flexibility for the students. It is a student-centric policy. And what are the flexibility to be established in the institutions in selecting the courses in terms of the multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary approach? Also flexibility in terms of multiple entry, multiple exits, and also the national credit framework and academic bank of credit. So many other things are concerned. Definitely, these are the need of the hour, how best we can adopt the changes happening around the globe into the country. Still, we have to address so many things which can be implementable for the benefit of the students. I want to make only a couple of challenges which we have. One thing is the conflict of interest is between the promoting privatization and ensuring the public nature of education. Whatever the policy we have been doing, still today, more than 80% of the students enrolling in private education institutions. But we have been discussing about this policy, ensuring the public nature of education. How best this policy can provide more opportunities for the public sector students are concerned. And the public sector, the second aspect is, we have been discussing about the so many other things, but market-friendly nature is one side and the ascertaining the interest of the people is other side. So the policy is looking to be very good, very aspirational, but the changing scenario of privatization in terms of even global universities we are inviting, what type of acts to be changed, and what is the place of this public sector institution who are pursuing higher education in the public sectors? We are all aware that the basic consensus is that the privatization, the students are majority students. In other way, we can say that the marginalized sections may not have access to the private universities. There is no reservations, there is no scholarships. There is no uniform act till the country that this is the uniform act for the private universities in the country. So when we have increased this one, so the gap between these marginalized sections and affordable sections will create more problems in the society. So that's why keeping the population, those who are coming into the higher education, recently, when we look into the public state universities particularly, I think that even central university also, the first person coming into the universities, first man in the family coming into the universities. So if you look into the private and public, that scenario can appear more and more. So how best we can address these issues, keeping into the national education policy is concerned. So Telangana state taking all the national education policy which was regulated by the UGC or AITCT, we have been taken care to provide the facility for the students in tune with the regulations of higher education institutions like a UGC, etc. With these few words, I thank the Professor Sitaram Rao Garu, Vice Chancellor Ambedkar University, and their staff for giving this opportunity. I look forward our eminent Vice Chancellor, University of Hyderabad, and our good friend, Professor B.J. Rao Garu will address. I think I am eagerly waiting for his speech. Thank you. Thank you for an.
So thank you very much, Professor Limbadri, for your inspiring inaugural address. Your basic issue related to the implementation of the NEP 2020, include with the students who are pursuing their higher education in the state-funded universities. Really, this is a big challenge in the context of hands-off approach of the state in terms of providing sufficient financial resources for all the universities, whether it is a central university, state university, or any university. So, in this context, the students who are coming from the first generation of families who are pursuing their higher education from rural and backward areas face definitely a real trouble in terms of absence of scholarships, non-reservation. This is really a challenge going to faced by the universities working in public sector, funded by the state. So now we are entering into this technical session. Now the first speaker of this session is our respected Professor B.J. Rao, Vice Chancellor of University of Hyderabad, and since he has a lot of experience coming from a state like Telangana and heading a central university, he has two important qualities. He knows the nature of the state and the nature of the society and the economy of the working of government here. And also, since he came from state universities, Usmania, and studied there, so he has experience of two worlds. So I thought he will be the right person to reflect upon the implementation of this NEP 2020 in state universities and what are the issues and challenges going to be faced by ours. But for central universities, I have already told, since they are under the directly control of central government, either way they will impose and push to implementation of the NEP. But state universities are situation is different. We are facing various other issues and aspects. I have already told legal, technical, everything, political, administrative, and all. So in this backdrop, I request our Honorable Speaker, Professor B.J. Rao, to reflect upon the implementation of the NEP 2020 state universities.
Good afternoon to all of you. Firstly, I want to thank Ambedkar Open University for inviting me here. I want to thank Sitaram Rao Garu and my good friend on the screen, Limbadri Garu, and Professor Ravinder Garu, Anand Pawar Garu, Sudharani Garu, and all of you who are sitting here. And also maybe online, there are a lot of participants. The topic, implementation of National Education Policy 2020, a way forward. And then a subtopic is implementation of NEP 2020 in state university issues and challenges. I hope I'm audible on the online system. Very good. Okay. So before I go into this topic, I want to just say very clearly that politics apart, education has to move on for the country and ultimately for the world, because the world is looking at India. India will be at the center stage of the world in the years to come, maybe 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. India will get about 50 years of window to be the world leader, to be on the world stage in science, technology, education, and inventions. We can decide to miss the bus, or we can decide to ride the bus. This is the opportunity that we have to vote for. Now, coming to state governments and state government politics, one good news is whether state governments openly accept or not, they will end up following NEP 2020.
Yes.
This is for sure. The government has to follow a policy which is way forward. And NEP 2020 is certainly a way forward compared to what we are now. So it doesn't matter whether explicitly they state it or not, they will end up following because they have to get re-elected and elected and re-elected. So the politics also dictates that they do improve educational framework. In NEP 2020 or some other name, it really doesn't matter. Now, why do we need NEP 2020 or some other name of NEP 2020 for education? This is the real question. And the next real question is, why do we emphasize on this in the state universities? The first question is important. Why do we need a way forward? What is wrong with the current education system? This is the first question we must ask. If there is nothing wrong, there is nothing to fix. Right? If there is something seriously wrong, we have to fix it. In the name of NEP 2020 or some other name. It is very clear that our current education system is not working that well. Although we are fifth largest economy in the world, we do not produce high quality inventions. We have not produced many gadgets that you see around. And we have not become technology superpower. In certain pockets, we have excelled. That's no doubt about it. The data suggests that per dollar spent, per rupee spent, India has produced the best in the world in terms of publications, in terms of manuscripts, in terms of resource material, per dollar spent. We don't spend enough, that's a separate issue. But per dollar spent, we have produced very well in the world, we are top. However, per publication, we have generated the least impact. Our innovations are the least in the world per publication. Because ultimately, every human endeavor in the name of publications, souvenirs, or books must be so scholarly that they should impact, they should generate some impact. That innovation, we are least in the innovation coefficient. So this is the data, and this data has been with us for the last few decades. What does this mean in a simple language? It simply means we are good at publishing things, we are good at writing things, we are good at generating material, but we are not good at generating interesting material. Even now, we do not produce good reading books. In science or society or technology or sociology or humanities, we don't produce good books. This is undoubtedly true. We produce books which are barely readable. Content is there, but it's not interestingly presented. There is no novelty in it. So therefore, we do not seem to be applying our mind towards innovation. This is very clear. Although we are fifth largest economy, simply because of the sheer size, we are not very high in per capita. And per capita will happen only by innovation, not by size. Size will increase the bulk of the economy, but per capita wealth can only come by innovation, which we are lacking. This has been the main setback or deficit of the current education system. We have not prepared innovative minds. We have not prepared students who can think out of the box. Everybody will run after a certificate and a degree. And many times that degree is worthless in the job market. This is across the board. There are exceptions. In the size of our country, there must be exceptions, statistical exceptions. We keep that aside. The bulk mass hasn't been innovative enough. And unless we become innovative enough, we cannot be world power. That is period. There are small countries, Philippines, Taiwan, Indonesia, Korea. Very small countries have been so innovative. Most of the semiconductor technology comes from Taiwan. Small country, relatively very small country. And they send us all kinds of chips that we use. They're the global powers for generating microchips. We are all buying. Most of the material around us so far has come from outside. The know-how for most of this material has come from outside even now. Of course, those fabrication plants are being set up in India now. But the know-how comes from outside. How come? How come we have not generated know-how which is more inside the country? Why we have not been original enough? This is a fundamental question that all of us have to ask. And one of the main answers is our education has not been innovative enough, has not been interesting enough, has not been exciting enough for children to learn very deeply. Most of our children do rote learning. Learning by heart, learning by repetition, learning by writing a lot, or reading a lot without deeply understanding the concept. There are exceptions, but by and large, I'm telling you, there may be language barriers. There may be barriers in terms of social compartmentalization. Self-esteem is not there. There may be a lot of inhibition from inside. All kinds of upbringing issues. So we have not made minds which are fearless in our education system. This has been a serious problem. This serious problem has to be undone. Cities have been largely physical structures without too much of interaction with the society. Inside the university, we have classrooms, departments which do not interact often enough. The neighbors don't talk to one another. We have problems with our neighbors. We indulge in a lot of interpersonal fights. This has been so across board in the country. Look at the rest of the world. Rest of the world is collaborating. China collaborated a lot with the United States of America for decades. Now China is said, bye-bye, we'll do it ourselves. And they are collaborating within the country strategically. Within Europe, there is a lot of collaboration, except few exceptions. Australia collaborates a lot. So there is a lot of inter-country collaborations on big tasks. But within India, the level of collaboration that our minds should have gone through, have not gone through. So there is something in us that doesn't allow us to collaborate with others. Therefore, NEP 2020 says, do interdisciplinary work. This is the origin of it. You have been doing too much of disciplinary work, sometimes indisciplinary work, but let us start doing interdisciplinary work so that we can start collaborating with each other, work with each other, synergize with each other, and generate products which are much more than the sum of the arithmetic components. 1 + 2 should be much bigger than 3, which the rest of the world is doing. For this interdisciplinary education, deep education, education without real classroom boundaries. You earn certain credits in a classroom. Maybe you take another course within the university in some other department, earn some class credits. Across departments, you can earn credits. So this is breaking the walls now. And then if possible, 40% you earn the credits from some other university, going away from your university. So this is the spirit with which we have to learn, because learning can happen anywhere. You don't have to sit in your room and learn. You can sit under the tree and learn. You can sit across large audiences and learn. National boundaries are no boundaries. So there is really no boundary for learning. We have seen this in COVID, right? So therefore, it is important that NEP suggests you learn from wherever you are interested in. If in Ambedkar Open University, my students feel that this particular course is very interesting, we will sign up and learn. Why not? You are in any open university. You are open enough, so we'll sign up. Our students can sign in and learn. What is there to prevent it? Why some state governments say we don't follow NEP 20, you don't, but you can't prevent me signing into your courses, right? So there's no problem. Politics apart, but there is really no problem. There is learning everywhere if you want to do it. And then the other important thing is, whatever we are learning, is there an outcome? Let us say a student who has done BA in literature, English literature. Can he or she draft good English poetry or good English text? Can he write English well? Can he write good, complete sentences in English? Outcome. Can he convey his ideas or her ideas in clean, simple, elegant English? We have a lot of BA English degree holders, but they can't create a single sentence correctly and completely. The outcome. So therefore, there has to be an outcome for education. Education is a very, very strong endeavor, mission. Unless there is an outcome, it's no use. If you are an electrical engineer, there should be outcome. You should be able to do a lot of electric devices. You should be open up and put it together. If you are a real engineer, are we teaching that enough in our classrooms? Are we teaching enough skills that the mind feels that I can do it myself? No. We are only teaching content. From content, we need to transform to skills. And that will happen by content to understanding to insights to skills. And from skills comes confidence. And from confidence comes innovation. If I can open up this and assemble back, I can even open up a mobile and assemble back. That confidence will come. Are we generating confidence in our education? This is the question. If NEP 2020 can generate confidence in a student's mind, NEP 2020 or some other name, it has to be followed. Because ultimately, you need to generate students who are confident enough to do something very strongly with their lives. If education cannot achieve that, education is waste. I must say it. And unambiguously, unhesitatingly. I feel in NEP 2020, there are ingredients which will sort of start giving us these interesting things. Academic bank of credit, why is it required? It is required because in our day-to-day lives, there are interesting complications. I want to be able to give a gap in my education, go and do some work, earn some money, and come back to education. So academic bank of credit will give me that flexibility. I have earned out of 100 credits required for a program, I have earned 60 credits, 70 credits. I'll keep that in my bank. Like you keep your money in your bank. I'll go and do something else. Maybe I'll write some poetry and publish some poetry books, although I'm an electrical engineer. Maybe I'll go and do some masonry. I'll learn some masonry because there is serious shortage of masonries in the world, in the country. Maybe I will learn some artwork, because artwork also sells these days, and come back and finish the remaining credits and get my degree. Nothing is wrong in that. I think this is a simple model that we should have followed 70 years ago. Now the technology allows it. See, this is the other thing. Technology is compelling us to follow this. Earlier, there was no technology. Now, in Aadhaar-linked academic bank of credit account, I can store my credits. Because it is Aadhaar-linked, I can come back and add up my account and finish it. Nobody else can use it because it's Aadhaar-linked. Just like you have your bank accounts, you have multiple bank accounts. So you can actually have multiple credits coming from multiple other universities. Technology allows it. In few seconds, you can transfer money from your account to another account on pay these days. Technology allows it. So use the technology and facilitate a flexible learning methodology for students to learn from multiple universities. This is the way to go. Don't trap a student exclusively in one university where the student is bored to death about it. Liberate the student. Let the student go and learn wherever he or she wants to learn. In fact, the student doesn't have to sit in the classroom to learn. Ultimately, as teachers, we have to just train the student enough so that he can learn himself or herself. We don't have to train the student completely. We don't have to give the information to the student so much that he suffers from she suffers from indigestion of content. Just give enough information, generate enough interest so that the student can go and learn on his own or her own. Ultimately, learning is do-it-yourself exercise, not hear from others exercise. You have to do it yourself. You have to sit beyond the midnight hours and actually solve the problems. No teacher will be sitting next to you. You have to work till 4 a.m. and say, yes, now I have understood. I'm ready for the exam tomorrow. This is all do-it-yourself exercise, ultimately. So what is our role then? Our role is to essentially trigger enough interest in them. That's all. People like us are made because of that one teacher in life. That passion got created because of that one teacher. And all of us should become that one teacher to every student. And all those ingredients are present in the NEP 2020, where you have to go beyond the content. You have to be concept-oriented in your teaching. You have to give hands-on exercises to the student, provide internships so that the content is contextualized. See, whatever you learn by reading will never get inside you unless you contextualize it. Context of learning is so important. All of you know it. You are so experienced teachers. I don't have to repeat it. The context is given to the student appreciates it. The student understands the issues. And then the student will get so excited about it that the student will start learning on his own. So the context also is there in NEP 2020. And that is why the student has to do internships, where the student will go and get hands-on experience on what he or she has learned. So in some simple language, all the different ingredients that I have mentioned about NEP 2020 are, in some sense, the real ways of learning. And this is what most of the Western world has been following. This is not a new invention. This is an invention that has been seen elsewhere also, in one way or the other. So we have brought it together in one framework now. It is completely up to different units, different state universities, different institutes to adopt intelligently. It's completely up to us. Nobody is going to crucify you if you don't follow it. But it is good if you follow it, because I think there is a way forward in that. Now, Especially talking about state universities, I must emphasize maybe two things. One is resources, both material resources, money resources, and human resources. There are tremendous challenges about these resources in the state universities compared to, let us say, central universities or centrally funded institutes or even privately funded institutes. Compared to all these different entities, I think state universities are facing much more challenges. This is very clear. Especially because various state governments seem to have these political compulsions of starting multiple state universities without worrying too much about the resources. So it is like spreading thin. It's a political compulsion, they do it and we are all part of it. But ultimately we need to generate resources. Unless you generate resources, you cannot do many things very interestingly. The question is, where do you generate resources from? Resources in terms of faculty power, resources in terms of physical infrastructure, and resources in terms of our ability to invite people and do interesting other activities other than your curricular activities. All these require enough resources. It is very clear that the resources are going to dry down sooner or later, maybe sooner. Writing is on the wall. It is much more so for state universities and less so probably central universities, but all of us will get there. What is the way forward to this? If tomorrow the governments declare that you please generate your own salaries, what is the way forward? It's the question that I am asking myself. I am asking in my university. I'll start asking everywhere else also. It may not happen all of a sudden, but it will certainly happen at a gradual manner, because I think the system everywhere in the world, not only in India, everywhere in the world, systems feel that universities, which are power centers, knowledge centers, should be able to generate their resources because they are knowledge centers. Conceptually, that is correct. Any place which is knowledge centric must be able to generate resources because knowledge is ultimately power. You convert, how do you translate that knowledge power into resources? This is where we have failed miserably. We have become mere academicians. In the rest of the world, even in Harvard and MITs, faculty members generate their part of their salaries. Not now, have been doing that for decades. There is that culture in them to generate resources. How? This is what actually has generated innovation. Because there is pressure for them to generate resources, they became innovative. Everything they do, they look in terms of money power. Can I commercialize it? Can I make something out of it? That is how innovation has happened. It has not happened from blue sky. It has happened for active efforts. And that culture is not there in our ecosystem. In our ecosystem, you have degrees, you have jobs, you have increments, you have career progressions, you have salaries, everything is hunky-dory. That is not so in most of the well-developed Western world. There is nothing very secure about their jobs. It's a constant struggle to excel and constant struggle to generate resources. That culture we have to bring in. Other thing that has happened in the Western world, which has actually pushed them into very high innovation, is they have very strong societal industry connect, because of which society has generated a lot of philanthropy, which is given back into the universities. Harvard University is sitting on a pile of money as a philanthropy. Because philanthropists are convinced that Harvard University has done enough for the society. Our universities have not been able to convince that. This is as simple as that. If we are able to convince it within our society that we are doing something societally very, very useful, there are people, rich enough people who will come and tell us, take this money for the university. That culture we have not generated. We have been largely cocooned in our system, getting our salaries, living comfortably, complacently, and demanding for more salaries, by and large. So therefore, this culture will change. It is already, it's already clear, right? There is no real pension policy. It's only NEP now. There is NPA. Contributory. So you contribute. So that also may actually dim at some point. So ultimately, the whole writing on the wall suggests that you have to generate your own resources by societal connect, by industry connect, and by actually showing that whatever you are doing in terms of your teaching, research, publications, they're useful for the society. And NEP 2020 is the first step in that direction. And state universities have to take a lead on this. Something has to be made. So when there are resource crunch, it has to generate enough innovation inside the minds and say, can I do something with what I know? So that kind of ecosystem we have to be part of, we have to generate. If you imagine about 20 years, 30 years from now, just imagine, just leapfrog. Cities will be very different. We may not be sitting like this physically. We will all be connected by digital world because digital communication will be so rapid that you don't have to be physically sitting. Physical universities may or may not exist because physical universities are expensive to maintain. And that kind of expense society will not afford. It's a luxury to have this kind of thing in the years to come. Because we have to generate 100% penetration in the society educationally. We are only 25%, 26%. That means 75% of our population don't have access to this. It's a failed model. Right? By now, 100% of society should have access to this. It is so expensive. So this model has to change. It will be inexpensive, affordable, digital world where education will happen at a very high scale. We are only now discussing maybe 40 people here, maybe 70 people on Zoom, maybe a few hundreds on YouTube. Few hundreds on YouTube is the scale. That is the scale that will happen. At no cost, YouTubers are learning, right? That will be the model. So models have to change significantly. And therefore, this 60% credits in the physical mode within the university, 40% credits anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world is a way of going away from the physical model. So if you think about it, these are actually indications of changing times. And within those changing times, the new framework of NEP 2020 will give us an exposure to a new model of education. And in that new model of education, we will generate products which are future ready, future job ready, future innovation ready, future inventions ready. The key point of NEP 2020 is to have enlightened teachers, not just ordinary teachers. If teachers are very ordinary, uninteresting, not encouraging enough, not innovative enough, then NEP 2020 will just limp. I must emphasize this because these days education requires three important ingredients: learning, unlearning, relearning. Because the world is changing so dynamically that your curriculum today may not be relevant next year. Your curriculum next year may not be relevant an year after that. Things are changing so rapidly in the world. That's not your fault. You have to change your curriculum. Sorry, you do it. As teachers, you have to do it. And when you change the curriculum, there is a problem. You have to learn it. You have to learn new things. That's why you don't change the curriculum. So constant learning by the teachers is a very important requirement in this day and age. Only then you become a good teacher, honestly. Otherwise, you will not only become a bad teacher, but you'll become a very uninteresting teacher. Because you're teaching the same thing over and over again, and students go and say, it's the same thing you teach, I can just go and learn something else. So therefore, it is interesting that it's important that teachers also have to constantly learn. It's very interesting to learn till we die, honestly speaking. There is no end to the learning process per se. The process itself is so interesting, so enlightening. You feel like learning every minute new things and then telling to the students new things. And they tell something new to you and you tell something new to them. It becomes interaction. It's no way, one-way traffic. But most of the Western classes are interactive classes, which is where students become innovative. Because they are asking questions. They are asking innumerable number of questions. And the whole class becomes very interactive enough. This is what is called flipped class learning. That is, you are flipping the entire class. There is no learner, there is no learned. It's all same. That model of learning will be so interesting that everybody is learning. Even a backbencher will be learning because backbencher will hear something interesting. And something enters into that backbencher's ears, and that also will start a process. Now the backbenchers are simply sleeping. An interesting, innovative, interactive mode of learning will begin. Because learning is nothing but asking questions and understanding. Right? It is not what you hear. It is what you hear and you think, you question, you ask questions, you start thinking, you read, reread. So it's learning, unlearning, relearning, all that will happen in a very dynamic manner. The process of teaching, learning, education, degrees, certificates will become so much more meaningful that society will start generating very interesting, innovative leaders. Besides giving degrees and jobs, other things also will start. And that is one important motivation of doing education through NEP 2020 manner. So these are some of the interesting points that I just wanted to share with you. You may agree with me or you may not agree with me. But I think the points that I have mentioned are relevant points for changing times in the society. So there are more serious challenges in the state universities, but I think the state universities are capable of solving those problems. Very much capable. They just have to decide to do it. Thank you very much and namaste to all of you.
Sir, Professor BRAOU is known for out-of-box thinking and innovation. And I happen to listen to it many times. Just speaks very simply. It is very fundamental and basic questions. So think and taste together. So that is this capability. Yeah. Now, other speaker, another important person is Professor Nirmalji Singh Parsi, Chairman of NCDET, and very key person behind the drafting the National Grades Framework. I extend my heartfelt thanks to him for joining this session. I request give his talk on the National Grades Framework and its adaptability in various universities. Thank you, sir. I request you to
Namaskar, very distinguished panelists, speakers on the dais, all the delegates, and all teachers and students who are connected via online media. I'm extremely happy that this conference is being organized by the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. And a very important topic of NEP 2020 and National Credit Framework is being discussed. Now, the National Education Policy 2020, which envisaged under the dynamic leadership of Honorable Prime Minister, reflects the aspiration of the students, teachers, and the citizens of the country. Now, NEP lays emphasis on making education more holistic and effective by integration of general education, vocational education, while ensuring vertical and horizontal mobility of the students and the learners between academic and the vocational streams. Now, NEP has been built on the pillars of access, equity, quality, affordability, accountability, and it strives to transform India into a vibrant knowledge society. Now, to realize the objectives and intent of the NEP, the National Credit Framework has been developed by the government. Now, for this purpose, government had constituted a committee comprising of all regulators, including UGC, AICT, NCVT, and NCRT. And then there were ministries of higher education, school education, and skill education. Also, NIOS, CBSE, they were members in the committee. The report of the NCRF committee was submitted to the government, which has been accepted. And thereafter, it has been notified by UGC for implementation by all institutions. So today we'll be discussing the basic features of NCRF, and then I'll be happy to take questions. I have with me two of my colleagues, Dr. Neena Pahuja. She is executive member, NCVT. She was part and parcel of the entire development process. Dr. Pahuja is a BTech, MTech, and PhD from IIT Delhi. And she joined NCVT in April 2021. Lieutenant Colonel Gunjan Chaudhary, he is looking after this sector. He is a director in NCVT, and he also closely worked on the policy. So what we'll do is that we will quickly make a small presentation on NCVT, and I'll request my colleague to take you through the basic features of the policy of this framework, and thereafter we can discuss. Can you just share? So I'm going to share the presentation. Can you see the presentation, please?
Yeah.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
So I'll request Dr. Neena Pahuja to take us through the TRF basic features.
Thank you, Dr. Kalsi. A very good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Pahuja this side. I will take you through the basic concepts, and of course, at the end of this presentation, we'd love to have questions from you on this particular area. I was just hearing the previous presenter. I think a couple of things which came in, and I want to stress on how National Credit Framework actually works on some of the points which were talked about today. Some of the thoughts which came in, wonderful thoughts which came in was NEP and education needs to give universal access to global education. Education and employment need to go together. I think this was another wonderful point that came in, and see how National Credit Framework actually enables it. And I have some, in fact, user journeys which we've created for a student, which actually talk about how we are able to create industry-ready children from the colleges. Another beautiful thought which came in was, we need to create children who are caring and also have noble virtues. I'm repeating some of the things, but you'll see actually as part of my presentation that these are some things which will come out of it. The policy actually is a student-centric policy, and see more about it. I already mentioned about, students become future ready with the jobs or for the jobs. It mentions about collaboration, and we'll see how it actually gives emphasis to collaboration. Maybe doesn't start that process, but actually the way Credit Framework is made, it actually enables it. Yes, confidence in the students was another point which one of the professors just talked about. And I think that's one wonderful thing that comes out of it, because once you know that your product is wanted by the industry, or your knowledge is wanted by the industry, I think you actually get that confidence. So I'm going to go straight to the policy and talk about what the policy is. Okay. This is, I think, already spoken about, but since I have that slide, what we are trying to come up with is holistic education. And I'm not going to spend too much of time on this, since they're all educationists in the conference. I think you know more about this than me. So we spoke about, we need for a student to have knowledge, which could be his disciplinary. I think there was something, I think it was also mentioned, we need to have cross-functional skills, interdisciplinary skills. And we'll see how that is also coming as part of the National Credit Framework. Skills which are physical, practical. We also need to focus on cognitive and metacognitive kind of skills. But I think more also is attitude and value. I've been in industry for more than half my life. And I think what really is valued there is not only your knowledge, but also your personal skills, your team building skills, your life skills, your soft skills, and how you work with people, or your ethical values. So I think all those is also extremely, extremely important, which we'll see how Credit Framework is really enabling it. But the tagline at the end of it is learn to learn. I think there was a mention about the professor mentioned, how do we have people learning, forgetting it, and then relearning again. But I think what we are really talking about here is learn to learn. That's the kind of concept we have to teach our kids or students, because things are changing almost every day. The technologies are changing almost every day. We're talking about artificial intelligence, concepts like that coming in, ChatGPT coming in, BARD coming in. So language, things are changing. So what is a National Credit Framework? National Credit Framework is actually a meta framework. And that's the most beautiful part of it. It actually is a framework, and you can put in specifics of how you want to implement it based on what you want in your state university or autonomous university. It enables school education. It actually integrates school education, higher technical education, and vocational education, and skilling. So it's a skilling really. So skilling actually gets embedded in school and higher education. And we're going to see a lot of examples of how that happens. But in the process, something which also was mentioned was, it enables multiple entry, multiple exit. One of the conferences when we were talking about workshops on NCRF, one of the points which came in from Honorable Minister was, how do we increase the gross enrollment ratio for higher education? A lot of children actually drop out after, maybe 10th or after 12th. But how do we increase that? The multiple entry, multiple exit actually will enable it. But there's more to it actually, because it is not only, there are times I join university, I join a course, but as a student, I realize this is not what I want to do in my life. So can the knowledge that I've gained for the part that I actually joined a university, can that be used for the next set of courses that I want to do as part of my education. So even that is enabled as part of NCRF. So let's go further. Dr. Kalsi already spoke about, this was a joint team from UGC, AICT, NCVT, and others who actually worked on this credit framework to come up with this framework. And I'm pretty sure most of you may have gone through the document of NCRF. But let's see, what are we trying to do? What we're saying is a huge thing, creditization of all learning. I think that is the most wonderful part of the credit framework. And integrating learning in all dimensions of learning, academia, and even learn and work also. And I'm going to give you some examples of how learning across academia, skilling, and experience when I'm working also gets counted as part of my creditization. It removes distinction between the normal education, the general education, and vocational education. We have to create children who are ready with skills. So it's important that there is actually no distinction. The industry has been always saying we need students who actually graduate who are ready to join industry. We don't want to be spending too much of training and retraining them. So NCRF, we'll see how it enables and also enables a mobility between different kinds of education. Like I said, I think it was mentioned in the previous session, multidisciplinary. And you'll be surprised, we had gone to IIT Bhubaneswar. In IIT Bhubaneswar, we came across that they had a 1 credit course on Odissi dance as one of the course for a BTech. I think even IIT Madras had a course possibly on Kathak. So one is, of course, adding cultural concept to the courses. But second also is that there are courses of the kind that they're doing a BTech with a major, say, in mechanical and a minor in computer science, which means the child is actually ready with mechatronics and he's actually ready to work in today's factory of automobile. Because as we grow more and more, today's factory has a requirement of both electronics and mechanical, and maybe over a period of time, more of electronics, as we see, when we go to a factory like a Maruti or a Tata Motors or something. So can we prepare a student for both the courses, both the areas? So we can have a major in mechanical and minor in that. And the most wonderful part is that, I heard in some of the meetings which I was involved in, we see a lot of drop in number of students who want to join other disciplines. But by making them multidisciplinary, we also see the increase in that, because if you have a civil engineering course and if you actually start doing a course on 3D printing of a house, maybe the kids will like it even more because that becomes more and more aspirational. So multidisciplinary and holistic is what I spoke about. So you can have even courses like Kathak dance or Odissi dance, or even maybe making a cake, why not? Or something like that, or doing NSS as part of your holistic education, because that's what is making a student a complete student. Multiple entry, multiple exit is the most wonderful part, which I think ADP talks about. And we see how that's actually managed. I think we have another session post this also, which is going to talk about academic bank of credits. But the National Credit Framework actually talks about, how do we assign, accumulate, and store. But storage will be done as part of the ABC. And the redemption is something which the universities will come up with a rule of how they will redeem those credits to give a degree to the student. It fully supports the credit-based academic skilling framework for higher education. And in fact, just to let you know that NCVT has already implemented our national qualification framework. And of course, we are looking at, how can we transform India and make India the hub of education and skilling, which is something that we've been all wanting. Next slide. Thank you. There was also a talk, I think, in the previous this thing on making a flexible structure. If I speak to the children of today, people who are in college or people who just graduated from the college, I think they're all looking for a quick learning module. In fact, we have come up with the concept of a micro-credential also as part of learning and skilling, where it could be a very quick, flexible structure also, which means a micro-credential on, say, artificial intelligence can also be included in a course on mechanical engineering, so that a mechanical engineer who comes out from a college actually also understands how artificial intelligence can be used in his area. So these are the concepts of flexible structures also, which NCRF really talks about, and also says that, look, every structure should be revised over a period of time. There is another wonderful thing which I think we'll talk about is RPL, which is recognition of prior learning. There are times, and I've been in industry personally myself, there are times we realize that, we have done courses or we are on the job, we are learning a lot of things. But there are times we don't go for certification on that particular learning that we've done during the course. So can we go for certification of the learning that we've done? I'll give you an example. I may have used cloud, say Amazon Cloud or Microsoft Cloud or something, during my work in, say, an IT organization. So can I just do an exam of that and get credits for it? I'm just giving an example, but the RPL program is much larger than that. And we have complete guidelines of that also, which have been created. It also allows you expanded open learning or distance learning programs together with blended learning. I think that was another point which came in the previous one. And of course, multilingual. I mean, already we are talking about Bart talking about multilingual outputs. But yes, all Indian languages, we should be able to teach our kids in all the different Indian languages as required. National Credit Framework has special features where it talks about, how can we help our Divyang children and usage of technology for them. And not to forget the internationalization of, education. There are a lot of times, for example, our nurses go to, say, UK, and they have to redo a course. Can we actually create a bridging course in India itself so that when they go, they actually can be productive in UK from the day one? Even our doctors, when they go to, I think, America, they also need to go via a course. But it'll be wonderful if they are productive from the day one. Thank you. Next slide, please. So what is a credit framework? The credit framework has a very simple, basic concept. One, it says every kind of learning needs to be creditized. That's first. Second, it says the notional hours, maybe in a year, are approximately 1,200 hours a year for earning a credits, which we say around 40 credits, which means around 30 hours will make 1 credit. There's more. We don't want to burden our children who are below 5th class. So for 5th class, for children of, who are below 5th class, we are not taking 1,200 hours, we're taking less hours. But after 5th, we're saying that for every year of learning, till 5th, we have credit level 1, till 8th, we have level 2. But after 8th, for every year of learning, we have 0.5 added to the number of grades. So that means you have a level 1, you have level 2, and you can have 1.33 also, credit level. And then you have 2.5, which is 9th standard, 10th is 3, 11th is 3.5, 12th is 4, and so and so forth. So UG, if you have a BTech student, the first year would be 4.5, second year is 5, 5.5, 6. So it's a very simple rule that we've kept actually going on to PhD level, which goes to level 8. So every year of learning adds a 0.5 to your credit level. That's a simple rule we've kept. And notional hours we've taken is 30 hours per credit and 30 hours of learning. We're not saying 30 hours of classes. We are saying 30 hours of notional learning. But there's something else that I want to add as part of it. The learning gets recognized only once the learning is assessed. Without assessment, the learning does not get recognized. Can you go to the next slide? But more, I think I want to add at that stage. So like I spoke, there are different dimensions of learning. So one is, of course, the academic axis, which starts from pre-nursery going on to PhD level, we just spoke about. On the skill axis, we have skilling going on to 1 to 8. But there's more. There's experiential learning also where we are trying to give value, which is going from, we're given here 4 breaks, trained, proficient, efficient, and master. So experience also counts, which we all know does count. But I think that's another wonderful thought that came on as part of the committee, that it is not only academic or the skill or the learning that you do, but I think the skilling also. So you may have a carpet weaver who is an expert or a master who actually then can become a professor of practice for carpet. So you need to have, similarly, even in academics, you have maybe a person who joins as assistant professor who's done a PhD, but you also have a senior professor who actually is a master and who's got proficiency in teaching and has a large number of papers. So you could define a proficiency in a particular area, or similarly in corporate also, in technology also, you may have a person who's actually done and understood cloud computing well, or information security well, or maybe gems and jewelry beautifully. And that's the kind of way you can define proficiency. So these are 3 axes we defined for learning. And with the 3 axes, we are able to define the grade framework. Next slide, please. So just, this is a little repetition, but just gives you the framework. If you look at it, the first 5 fundamental trainings, we're giving 800 hours per year for the small children. For further down, from 3rd to 5th class is 1,000 hours a year, and then it becomes 1,200 hours a year. Goes on from 6th onward upward. And there's a credit level that's assigned. There's a new concept which is there, which is credit point earned, which is the number of credits that you do multiplied by the credit levels. We realize how we actually are able to use this in ABC, or academic bank of credits, over a period of time, because that's what tells you that you've done that many credits over a period of time. Something more to be noticed here is we've actually, when you've created these bands, we've actually color coded some of the bands, and I hope you're able to see the difference in the colors. The colors have been given so that, when we are able to use the credits of a particular, we are able to use credits of a particular band to get your degree. So that's why they've been color coded. And I think more can be detailed out as we also work on the ABC guidelines of it. Next slide. I did mention about the experiential part. We had trained, proficient, expert, master. So these are some things which we have given as a guideline, but you could decide to have maybe different levels in case you decide to have that. These are some things which is one of the parts of the framework that we've also provided. I've taken this student journey actually, and I'm sure this is going to explain a lot of things. Now, I have a student, Adanya, who's in 10th, who's done 10th class, and she enrolls for now ITI program. And I'm trying to connect skilling as well as higher education. She's done 2 years of ITI program. After that, she wants to actually enroll for a UG program. Now, ITI program needs to have a language course also additionally to give her an equivalent of a 12th. That means 10 plus 2 years of ITI plus a language course actually makes it equivalent to a 12th standard. At this stage, she is ready to enroll for a 4-year UG program in an IT college. And she enrolls for an IT college or IT engineering college in a reputed university. Now, after 4 years of graduation, let's take a case that she exits after 3 years, and she works in an IT company for 4 years. Now, while she is working, she decides to enroll herself for 2 short-term courses, one IT, which is NSQF aligned course, and one which was non-NSQF aligned course. Now, I'm purposely trying to bring the difference between an NSQF aligned course and non-NSQF aligned course. For the NSQF aligned course, she will get the credits which will go to her ABC. But maybe for non-NSQF aligned course, the credits will not go to the ABC. She does both these courses, and after doing the course, she has some credits which enable her to actually register for a PG course. So when she does a PG course, she joins a PG course. Now the credits of that NSQF aligned course that she's done actually will be counted in the PG course if the PG course is something to do with IT. Now more, while she's doing a PG course, PG course is a 2 years course, she might want to do a project in her final year or final semester of a PG course, which is on blockchain, which again could be an NSQF aligned course, but it's an industry course of blockchain. So she can pick a skilling course of blockchain as part of a 6 months or 1 year, course that she actually does as part of the PG program. So what have we achieved? We've actually achieved a child. We've actually got a child who is, left education, joined education back, and then done a PG. And at the end of it, this girl is actually industry ready and will be possibly grabbed by the industry. Next slide, please. So what are we saying? I'm going to summarize, most of the learning. Every learning is creditized. Classroom, lab, class projects, assignments, all vocational education, could be blockchain, or even could be even industry visits. The training could be coming as part of online, blended, or otherwise, it could be coming as a simulator also. I've got welding simulators available, in the market, or I could actually have courses coming as AR or VR. In fact, a blended learning guidelines talk about all these kind of learnings. It could be as part of OJT or experiential learning or any kind of apprenticeship. But there's more to it. It could be as part of sports. I may have learned something as sports, or I may have learned a carpet weaving, which actually should give me credit, or games, or I may have done or taken part in Olympiad, or I may have taken part in NSS. Another point which came in from our minister was, when we went to IIT Delhi, he says, can you do something for children, for taxi drivers who are outside IIT Delhi campus? So can we actually do some kind of a social work and uplift life for people who are local? So I think all that is something which gives you credit, and that's what is the most wonderful part of NCRF, which makes a person actually a caring and a noble person, also not only a learned person. Next slide, please. So I think little bit of repetition here. It's Olympiad, even hackathons. We all are creating hackathons. Even hackathons can be recognized. So there's more that's happening for defense personnel. We've got Agniveers who actually joining defense, and we are trying. Can you put yourself on mute, please? Please put yourself on mute. So we've got Agniveers who are joining, and even for defense personnel, what we're trying to do is, can we create some specific training so that there are people who actually do not remain in defense, the Agniveers who are not selected finally for defense, are fully employable after this. We also want to give credits to international achievers, could be in sport, music, or heritage, or the master crafts people also. Can that happen? But there's also more to it. We have a lot of children who are gifted learners. The national credit policy does not limit them to do only one course or do one course a year. If there's a gifted learner and he wants to do 2 courses in a year, absolutely, national credit policy says absolutely yes, as long as the assessment of the course is done and the child is able to clear the course, the assessment. We are actually encouraging all those gifted learners. Next. So it also allows multiple entry, multiple exit. We did see that little bit of that example as part of the course. We saw a child who was even tried doing schooling, then gone to ITI, then gone to college. And so there is a very clear cut rules which have been set for multiple entry, multiple exit and multiple entry, because there is an academic and vocational education ecosystem that's been created, and there's an equivalence that's been created. So detail of the equivalence are available in our NCRF document, which I recommend that all of you should go through. But there's just an example I've taken. I think we explained that as part of the student journey. You have a student, 12th equivalent could be, you have child who's done 12th grade pass or regular, or somebody who's done 12th from NIOS, or like I give an example, 10th who's done 12th, 2 years of ITI and a language course, or 10th grade pass, completed 2 years of 3 years diploma, or 10th grade plus, or an STT qualification, short-term qualification of NCRF at level 3 and 4 with 40 plus 40 accumulated grades. So this all is equivalent to 12, which enables the child to get admission to UG. Similarly, if you want to get UG eligibility for second year, That comes after a child either has completed the first year of UG or maybe 12th class plus 40 credits from any UGC AICTE approved course, which is at level 4.5, or 10th pass with 3 years of diploma, after 10th, or 12th with 20 credits of UG AICTE approved course at 4.5. So all this actually becomes eligibility criteria, which enables multiple entry for a child to a particular course. So quickly on benefits, before I just hand over back to Dr. Kalsi. If you see, I think we heard in the previous sessions about what students need, what industry needs, what institutions need. I think we saw most of that coming in. Students are the biggest beneficiary of the National Credit Framework, because all kind of learning gets creditized. They actually can choose area of their interest, pursue extracurricular, which makes them a complete person. Our focus only is on learn to learn, really, and relearning, and subjects keep changing. It removes the hard distinction for them between education and vocational. We already have a lot of skilling courses which have even started in school education as on today. For institution, of course, there's a massive benefit. I think there was a talk about how do we improve collaboration between institution. I think this multiple entry, multiple exit will also enable that required collaboration between institution, which I think the professor mentioned before the session. Industries, yes, I think I see that as industry, biggest benefit for industry. Industries get future, children who are ready for them. And there's a concept of micro-credential also, which we've started, which enables them to do quick learning. But there's something more, which I think I didn't speak about, was we've also enabled courses from OEMs, which are there. We have courses, for example, in our National Qualification Register coming from companies like Amazon. Their Amazon Cloud Skills, for example. We've got that also as coming as skills. We've got courses which are there on drones. We've got courses which are there on VLSI to help already courses on nanotechnology also there as part of our NQR, which actually helps in the PLI scheme, which just got announced 3 days back. So, so industry is going to get those children who are ready with those courses and the knowledge, and they can hire them straight away. Of course, as government, we get benefit of a higher, gross enrollment ratio that we've all been looking for, and helps us to make vocational education or skilling also aspirational. I think we are already seeing a change in the way school students or even college students are seeing skilling, because we're trying to give skilling or the courses that they are wanting to do work on. I think that's all I thought I will speak about, and give the floor to Dr. Kalsi. Thank you, Dr. Kalsi.
Thank you, Dr. Neela. Now, after the other presentation on ABC has been made, we can take questions, or we can take questions right away, or whatever way you feel is okay.
So thanks very much, sir. Really, I'm happy to welcome Ms. Singh and also his team, who gave us a very elaborative talk on operationalization of national credit framework and also credit management. So, meanwhile, another speaker is there, Professor D. Ravinder, Professor from Osmania University, and he will be speaking on the impact of credits, and also on the recently Telangana state government has introduced students online verification portal to verify the certificates and awards and credits and other. And after that, there will be an interaction session. And I request Ravinder to speak for 10 minutes. Then we will take the question. Especially, there were so many online opinions, observations, and questions in the chat box. But answering them and responding to them. Now since we have no time, we will sort out all those information and observations and questions. We will answer them through online only later, either by some other method. Now I request Professor Ravinder to speak 10 minutes on the academic bank of grades. Professor Ravinder. I think so. Is there? Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, come.
Yes. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Please speak now.
Yeah. Good evening to all of you. Professor Sitaram Rao Garu, the president of this webinar on implementation of National Education Policy 2020, a way forward. And the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor B.J. Rao Garu, University of Hyderabad, and my colleague, Professor, I think from the last 1.5 hours, I've been listening about the scholars which have presented on this theme, implementation of national education policy, and the Professor Pawar and Professor Sudharani, and just now Professor Dr. Nirmaljit Singh Kalsi also detailed presentation on adaptation of national credit framework. But I think from the last 1.5 years, I've been participated and listening different viewpoints and different presentations on the new education policy. I think I had the opportunity to interact with the UGC chairman. We conducted several meetings, and in fact, in the Varanasi and other areas, and even the webinars also, which explained about the implementation of the new education policy. But I have my own doubts, and I particularly have come from the state university perspective. Though Professor B.J. Rao Garu explained very beautifully and described about the new education policy and contextualized in the present context, but still the central universities have its own advantages, and the state universities have its own limitations, particularly in the implementation of the new education policy. I think since I have come from the social science background, I think it haunting my mind that the basically this whole education policy in the country, that I think centuries together, which we have been followed with the colonial mindset and colonial kind of a framework. But suddenly now, I think particularly in the recent times, the new education policy is definitely its need of the hour. But it's shifting from the colonial framework to the European, particularly the American kind of a model, which is more or less it's a replica of the American education system, which is presented in the new education policy. In fact, recently I've been there in America and particularly interacted with some of the professors in US. I think the structure which I've been following in the US, I think the new education policy document is also more or less talks about in the same lines. But it's very beautifully crafted, and the best of the best minds went into this policy. And whereas in the implementation level, and every alternate day which you are receiving the communication from the UGC, and how to implement and how to, in the practical sense, there are n number of issues which we are facing. I think which I placed before the UGC chairman. Recently, I've been visited to Osman University and which had a lengthy discussion on this issue. But the entire document speaks about the access, equity, and flexible. And subsequently, the number of issues also, that multiple entry and exit, academic trade bank, and structure and internationalization, and in fact, the skill kind of a thing.
So I am not going into that, but whereas certain issues which I wanted to bring it to your notice, particularly Mr. B.J. Rao Garu is a senior most professor, and I think is closely access to the central government and the policymakers. Definitely, I think I would like to get some kind of a solutions for these issues. Sir, I think the education itself it is in the concurrent list. That is the major problem which you are. I think one has to try to understand the issue that in the concurrent list, on one hand the UGC, AICT, and other central government agencies every day they're either in the form of circulars or regulations which is issuing. On the other hand, the state government is also, particularly the State Council of Higher Education and other agencies also issuing the circulars. In between, the state universities are sandwiched. And which side we have to take it, either in the national education policy regulations or in the state level kind of a thing. In your presentation also, you rightly mentioned about the politics away from that and focus on the education. But I think here, this is either neither in the central list nor in the state list. It is in the concurrent list. So that's why I think, particularly in the federal structure, in the nation level, this which we are facing a major problem. The second point which I wanted to bring into your notice, that the dissemination of knowledge is also. On one hand, national education policy explain about the access and equity, but who has the access and where is the equity, and how do we understand this the conceptual words? For example, if you take the dissemination of knowledge from multiple agencies like the ICSE at the high school level, +2 level, the ICSE having its own syllabus and curriculum, and CBSE has this different kind of a syllabus, and the state boards have the different kind of a syllabus. And whereas the union government particularly came up with the NEET and JEE and conducting exams for the one nation for the many gateways, and at the same time without standardizing the whole syllabus and curriculum, but particularly that the NEET, JEE, NTA conducting the exams for the intermediate level, after intermediate for engineering and then the medical. Particularly, it's advantage to the ICSE, CBSE students, but whereas the poor, rural, the marginalized sections, which is very, very difficult to access this kind of a thing, and particularly that advantage to the urban English medium students, but which is not articulated and not standardized the whole syllabus in the nationwide also. And who has stopped for that? I think except regional language and the medium, that apart, I think the mathematics, biological sciences, the physical sciences can standardize and implement at the national level as a one nation, one policy kind of a thing, but which has not taken place. The next aspect which I wanted to bring into you, that the higher education assessing the quality, in particularly in the public institutions and the private universities and the all institutions. Whereas the on one hand, NAC is insisting to go for the NAC accreditation, the part of the UGC, and the UGC also insisting us for the quality. And at the same time, this both are contradicting each other. So the quality teaching, quality learning, and without having the fulfilling the vacancies, and the lot of vacancies which are existing in the state universities and including central universities also. Recently, the Honorable Minister accepted the fact in the Parliament that almost more than 9,000 of lecturer posts, assistant professor posts are vacant in the central universities also. Just leave about state universities. And at the same time, this contradicting on one hand, you are insisting on the quality, On the other hand, without the faculty members, how do we expect the quality and access to the people and the students? And in continuation of this, particularly the central and state universities, which are both any university, for say, any university which is dissemination of knowledge, the establishment of the university, the same purpose. But whereas in terms of objectives also it's the same. But whereas in the look at the central universities and the GRE ratio also. For example, in fact, the GRE ratio in national level is 26%, and in the Telangana, which is 36%. And the number of students enrolled in state universities are more while compared with the central universities. But at the same time, the funding pattern is completely discriminatory kind of a policy which adopted by the government of India. For example, the 65% of the funds goes to 54 central universities. But subsequently, the 35% of the funds goes to 439 state universities. And on one hand, you are expecting the quality, you are expecting the thing, particularly on par with the central universities, on par with the other universities, which is, I think, how do we compete with the central university and other universities also? On one hand, the government of India is also liberally extends support for the private universities also, which is very pathetic kind of a thing, that the universities which are not existing and some of the universities also existing and giving the research fund to the private universities, but ignoring the state universities, I think, which we need to be debate and discuss things also. On one hand, they're also advised to us that to generate funds from the internal resources. And how do we generate, particularly the state universities, particularly public funded university, which is how do we generate the funds in the internal level? That is, I think, in the recent past, which have enhanced the people, the PhD students, it created a lot of hue and cry in the student community. And since it's a public university, how do you increase the fee and so on and so forth? So that's why I think education is not a commodity. Education is not possible to commercialize in the public institutions. But whereas for research and development, which required the support from the both the governments, but in fact, after 12th plan, the most of the state governments, including Osman City, is also not getting even single pie from the UGC after 2017. Either we depend upon the DST or the ICSR and ICHR or other institutions. That is also very meager amount which we are getting. And particularly diverting the state universities to approach the RUSA. I think I would like to give a very practical example which we are faced under the RUSA. Usman University got 107 crores. Out of that, Usmania got only 10 crores out of the 60/30 ratio. So similarly, the other universities, the 10 universities identified, other universities got 25 crores, but whereas Usman University got 10 crores. When we approached the officials, they said that no, there is a paucity of funds, and on the other hand, there is no adequate faculty in the university. When you given the RUSA funds for the state universities, did you you know very well that the faculty number, but now I think we create this kind of a problems, and particularly not releasing the funds for the to strengthen the system. The another major point which they mentioned in the national education policy, that known as the affiliation system. Down the line, from the 15 years, from 15 years, all the colleges have to convert into a autonomous colleges and go for the de-affiliating with the universities. And most of the colleges also recognized as the degree granting universities. I think if you look at the statistics, so far in the national level, only 6% of the colleges have accredited. 94% of the colleges are not yet accredited. How do we expect that the degree granting universities in the new education policy? That is, I think, that need to be focused and need to be discussed and debate. The another important point, I think recently which I have received, I think it created a lot of debate on vernacular language. The UGC issued that. So I think particularly in the European countries, one nation, one language, one nation, one state kind of a concept existed. But whereas in the India, the one nation is a multiple languages, multiple identities. How do we implement this national vernacular language? I think you know very well that the Usman University, which was established on the vernacular language of the Urdu as a medium of instruction. But in the present context, in the globalization context, if our students studied in Telugu medium, they will not cope up with anywhere. And at the same time, these students also are not up to the mark, and particularly in the globalization context, the language, English, mentioned as a compulsory at the higher education level also. But another point which I wanted to bring into your notice, sir, that regarding the multiple entry and multiple exit, earlier policy was N+2. Now the multiple entry and multiple exit. For example, a third-rate university or college student exit from one college, and how do we admit in the NAC A grade college or A grade university? So there are practical kind of issues which we are, I think, if you go into the deep and deeper level. And similarly, you also rightly mentioned, and just now the madam also talked about the academic trade bank. Even academic trade bank is also which has a lot of issues, and how to transfer that grades also. From for example, a Central University student or State University student would like to move from State University to Central University or Central University to State University. The equivalence levels and subject and the syllabus and curriculum is also complete varied from one university to other university. So that's why I think these issues are very, very serious issues which we need to focus, need to debate at length, and to move forward. I think I stop here. I thank Professor Siddharama Rao Garu for taking up this implementation of National Education Policy 2020 a way forward, and we need to have lot of debate and discuss, and particularly to arrive a workable solution. Thank you very much for this opportunity, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ravinder. Really, you are shifted from inaugural session to technical session 3. You have come to our rescue in a way. We are very thankful to you. Really, you have given a very good analysis purely from the state university's perspective of the implementation of issues involved in the implementation of the NEP 24. Thank you once again, but I request you to be on the line for some more time. However, we have already said that the observations, questions which have arisen in the chat box will be answered separately through online mode. And the session is now open for the discussion for the physical participants here in the hall only. So, if anybody wanted to ask questions, make comments and their observations, with these three main speakers, Professor Vijay Rao and Professor Dr. Nirmal Singh and Professor Ravinder. You can ask your doubts, you can seek clarification, and you can also make your comments on the talk or observations. Thank you very much. Please. అది మాట్లాడడానికి అవి పని చేస్తానే అవి బాగా పని చేయకుండా వేస్ట్ బాబు అవి నడిస్తే అవి అక్కడి నుంచి మాట్లాడేవాడు మరి వస్తామను అదో స్క్రీన్ కాదు స్క్రీన్ చూడు ఏమైందా బాబు ఎవరు మాట్లాడుతున్నారు
Good evening, sir. Thank you, sir, for permitting me along with you. Yes, I'm Professor Mishra Patel, with you. My questions to Professor Vijay is, you told that we have to generate government funds. Are the factors to generate money? There is a service nature of the education institution where we live from. And what will be the difference if we are generating money? What will be the difference between public institutes and the private institutes? Although there is a competition, but these are my questions there.
It's a very good question. My idea of emphasizing and generating, or at least start generating resources, is not to equalize public universities with private universities. The distinction between public and private universities will stay. However, public universities must connect with the society and industry. This is the point I'm making, which I think so far our universities have not made it. If we start making that connect, then opportunities to generate resources will arise. Not that tomorrow we'll become completely self-sufficient. The point I'm making is if we start making the connect, I think from now, 20 years from now, we will be in a position to make our own choices. That change has to begin happening. This is the only point I'm making, and all of us have to do it. And for us to do that, our teaching, our research material, products, all have to become societally relevant. If we start becoming that, society will obviously look at us, and society will connect to us. And there is enough money in the society. That money has not started coming to us. That money will have to start coming to us. So it is our first step. We need to take that first step. And then the other side will start taking their steps. This change has to begin. This is the point I'm making. This is not to say that government will stop money tomorrow and we become completely self-sufficient. However, we have to make that beginning. This is the point I'm making. Thank you.
So thank you very much, sir. What you have said is right. In future, you connect to society and industry. Even Mundula Boya Paisa Manako
Evening. This is for Dr. Kalsi. So this has reference to page number 50 of the national framework. So when we award a certificate, let us say course certificate. So I think shall we have to mention the level, for example, 6.57 for the grade transfer?
Can you repeat the question? I can't hear anything. Can somebody from the stage repeat the question?
Maybe speak loudly.
Yeah. So this is to ask, are you 50 of this credit framework?
Check with him. He's hearing you.
I'm audible. Kalsi.
No. Little bit.
I can. So regarding this credit transfer, so shall we mention the level of the course and program from one program to another?
Can't hear anything. In fact, the voice is resonating so much.
Please come here.
Please, sir. So anyone next?
Please come here and speak.
So, Dr. Kalsi, this is, am I audible?
Yeah, now you're audible.
Right. Thank you. So, this is reference to page 50 of National Credit Framework. So, when we award a degree or course, so shall we have to mention the level of that National Credit Framework so that it is transferable from, let us say, 6.57, something like that?
Absolutely. For every course, you have to mention the level. But for overall degree, you need not mention the level because that degree level is known. If it is a UG course, it's a 3-year course, the level, final level is 5.5. So that's known. So you need not mention it. But when you talk about individual courses, you need to mention it so that the credits are accumulated for individual courses, and those are against that particular level.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. So from this is regarding NAC, from mobility B to A plus. So what is the course of action one university needs to follow? Maybe I'll use that one.
How does a student move from one system to the other for acquiring credits? Is that correct? That's the question, right? So every institute or every university has to think about it, because when you bring in students from external universities or institutes, it is completely up to you to set up your own thresholds. If
Absolutely.
I am A plus university, I would want to stay there or nearly there. So therefore, either for a program or even for a course, I could set up my own threshold. In fact, there are program-based level assessments happening now. There may be a university which is B+, but some programs in that university may be A++. That is possible. And if that framework is emerging now, it is already there, but it is getting retweaked. So it is completely up to our own units, your university, my university, etc., to set up certain level of thresholds. So this ultimately sets up enough competition in the system, because everybody wants to improve their quality so that they get better students. The whole idea is to improve towards competitiveness in the quality structure.
Yes, let me add to that.
We are completely free.
NCRF does not enforces you to take admission. You can have your own admission process. NCRF is not interfering with your own admission process, with your own NIRF level of the university and all that. That is for you to decide.
So you take it,
you can also
take it through.
Yes.
You take it through your own statutory bodies about what kind of threshold you want to set up.
Absolutely.
So there is a lot of homework that universities have to do about it. This is the point.
They have a flexibility. You could say they have a flexibility.
A lot of flexibility has been given to the university. Yes, next question, please.
Sir?
Yes, one more question.
Esteemed Vice Chancellors and eminent academicians, good afternoon. I have two questions. First one is for Professor Rao, sir, because we think like universities are knowledge centers, and specifically when it comes to constant engagement with knowledge systems, and we have grappling issues in National Education Policy 2020. Basically, universities, as you rightly pointed out, it's coming from quest for knowledge and thirst for excellency. So it's a constant journey and collective consciousness that we work. When it comes to industry and the job, I mean, we are industry ready, innovations and industry ready. We are making the students from that perspective when it comes to theoretically, we are very strong. When it comes to industry based, is it like education? I mean, this is a very layman's question, but still, I request you to answer this on behalf of my academic fraternity.
We make for knowledge society. We wanted to make thinkers to come out. We want a collective consciousness for the society. But when it comes to generation of the jobs, we make them to the roads. I mean, we make the student to travel on the road, but we cannot take them until the last step. So industry is completely, education has got its own role in creativity, thinking, engagement, and constant generation of knowledge. Whereas the industry it's more driven towards economic as well as income generation to the society. So, as per our previous knowledge, conventional society and traditional student-centered universities are given that kind of a knowledge for us. So, how do you see the change of NEP 2020? What kind of shift that it's trying to implement? Your observations, please.
Madam, your question is extremely relevant. You are asking if universities are knowledge generating centers, how do we generate industry ready products? How do we bridge that gap? That's the question. This is a relevant question because I completely agree that we ultimately learn knowledge for the sake of knowledge. However, while learning knowledge, we also should create enough skills in the mind. Knowledge should lead to skills. A good knowledge will lead to skills. And that particular gap filling has to happen within the university system. This is where we need to generate curriculum that can fill up that gap. But it is not to say that we make everything industry ready. No. For example, you can generate smart material, and that smart material can be used for any industry. You do not generate a product in the university. You only generate a high quality thinking, ab initio thinking, analytical mind, which can join any industry and start generating products and processes. So your mind should be intelligent enough, analytical enough, refined enough, can fit into any industry and start being productive. So you generate smart material, and that smart material can adopt into any industry and generate being productive. So are we generating smart material in our university system is the question. And the answer is, as of now, probably not. And therefore, in the new policy that we are adopting, we need to be able to generate smart thinking minds, analytical minds, minds which are ab initio in their thinking, where they can think from first principles and evolve solutions. Those kind of minds, if we generate, they can go to any industry and solve their problems. That's the answer. Thank you.
I request Mary Sunal.
The next second question is for Professor Khalsi. Yeah.
Make it brief.
Yes.
Don't make a speech. Short,
This is regarding the variables for experiential knowledge. You said we can use experiential knowledge as a variable. So I want to know more about the experiential knowledge variables, how we are going to measure it, the learned experiences. Thank you, sir.
See, the experiential knowledge can be at two stages. Stage one, when you have not completed the qualification and you are in the process of acquiring the qualification. So you go out and you work as an experience, as an attachment in an industry. That is called on-the-job training. So when you first train and then you complete the requirement of the award of the certificate or the diploma or the degree, and then you get the final degree after you are assessed. That is one part. Second is that you have already attained the basic qualification. And then you go for experience. For example, somebody joins as assistant professor. Now, after some experience, after completing certain conditions, he is promoted. He goes to the next level and still to the next level. So different institutions like IITs, IIMs, they provide different criteria for them to be going to the next level and to full professorship level. So that is the experiential learning. We are saying that when they are attaining that higher position, within their own organization also, they must also attain some additional credits. That is one part. That is the third axis which you're talking about. That is Z axis. And when the experiential learning is part of the qualification, then it comes either along the x-axis if it is academic learning, if it is academic working, and if it is skill working, then it goes on the y-axis. So that is how it is. So that means that if you look at some of the qualifications which are NSQF line qualifications, you will necessarily see a component of OJT, on the job training. So that is part and parcel of the qualification, and that we count as part of 1200 hours of yearly learning which we have prescribed. Hope I'm clear.
Oh, Sunanda.
Namaskar ji. Helsi sir's presentations, and I really liked Madam's presentation also. So one question that I did not understand is, every kind of learning should be credited. If you look at the high school and the primary curriculum, there are certain concepts and content that is getting repeated, like simple interest, compound interest, and then even in English vocabulary, it is getting repeated. If the child of the 5th class writes the story paraphrasing of the 10th class, it will be given marks, or what are the kinds of evaluation procedures to suffice this?
That's a very good question.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so I'll just react to that. I'll respond to that question. That's a very good question. Let me explain what are the essential components of getting credits. So for creditizing any kind of experience, you need the following conditions. Number one, you have to define the outcome, the prescribed outcome. You have to predefine the outcome which you will get out of that learning. You have to define the learning process, how many hours, where the learning is happening, and then you have to define the level, NCRF level at which the learning is going to generate. Say if learning is happening at level 3.5, that means class 11th, that learning is happening. So you define that this is learning, this is for 30 hours, and at the end of this learning, the student will have the following outcome, 1, 2, 3, 4. And how you assess this outcome once that learning process is complete. So once that has been defined, the student goes through that learning process, and after the learning, the student is assessed using the same method. Once you assess the student, if he has achieved that learning, he gets the credit. Now let me give you a very simple example. Suppose you say that any student who will plant 10 trees in his neighborhood will get 2 credits. And he'll not only plant trees, he will look after those trees for a period of 1 year. That means the student will go, he will plant the trees, he'll take a geotag photograph, he'll put it on the website of the school or wherever you want him to put that. And then he'll look after those trees for 1 year. He'll keep on taking the photographs from time to time. That is part of his learning. That's how he's learning. And every stage he's putting on the net. And after end of 1 year, then he puts in the final photograph, and then he gets a certificate from the local area person, maybe a sarpanch, maybe a ward person, the councillor, maybe the headmaster. He'll get a certificate. And once all these conditions are complete, and you have seen that these 10 trees have survived, he'll get the credits. So that is how the learning has to be creditized for every kind of learning. So you have to define the outcome, you have to define the level, you have to define the assessment method, and you have to assess it after the learning has been performed.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Kanka. Straight question. No speech.
I have just two questions, Dr. Khalsin. We are talking about the resource crunch, but then how do we go for resource crunch to resource improvement? The second question is regarding the credit equivalence. I couldn't understand how all disciplines could be equal, or how there is no disciplinary difference, or how vocational and general knowledge could be together, considered together, or how we can standardize the credits. And we say, of course, the credit hours give the learning, but I'm not sure whether the credit hours are equal to learning. So I'd like to know how we actually say that the credits are equal. How can credits be established, the equivalence be established across the institutes? Thank you, sir.
No, again, a good question. So first answer first. NCRF doesn't stop you for generating any resources. NCRF doesn't say anything about resources because NCRF is a framework. It's not a funding scheme. So you have to find your own resources. The way you want to create those resources, you have various options with you. Of course, I'm not talking of those options. So let me concentrate on the second question you've asked. Why the credits obtained from different subjects could be equated, how equivalence could be obtained. So just to answer one question, you take admission in IIM Ahmedabad. So once you look at the school, look at the class, you have a person who is a graduate in simple BA. He's a simple BA with art subject. Somebody is from IT. Somebody is from NIT. Somebody has done something in economics. Somebody is from Delhi School of Economics. So there are people from various backgrounds. And all those people, they take the examination, they get into IIM, and all of them, when they get out, nobody is asking them who was from which background. All of them are said to be the postgraduates from IIM Ahmedabad. That's it. That's end of it. So actually, when we are talking about different subjects, now why should I differentiate between art subject or the science subject or an engineering subject? I'm an engineer myself. No, I could have been the first one to oppose this very idea. But no, it's not required because learning is happening in every field of education. Learning is happening in history, learning is happening in economics, learning is happening in engineering, in technology, in management. Everywhere learning is happening. And all we are saying is that if learning is happening at, say, NCRF level 4.5, 40 credits, level 5, 40 credits, level 5.5, 40 credits, you get a degree. That's all we are saying. We are not saying anything more than that. Secondly, we are saying that this is not only integration of vocational education into your academic education. This is integration of skilling into education. When I talk about integrating skilling into education, I'll give you an example. Suppose somebody is a physicist. He is a PhD in physics. So can he create an atom bomb? Or can he create a nuclear reactor? The answer is no, he cannot create a nuclear reactor. He might know the theory behind creating a nuclear reactor. But if somebody wants to create a nuclear reactor, you need an engineer to design that dome. And that dome design engineer would be a civil engineer. Then you will need an electrical engineer to work out the details of the generators. Then you need a mechanical engineer to work out the details of the turbines. Similarly, you will need the skilled people. You will need the skilled people to actually construct those based on those designs. So every design, every knowledge, every learning has to be integrated to bring about this complete thing called the atomic power plant. So at the engineering level also, we need to integrate all kinds of skills into the BTech level, into the MTech level. Now, NCVT has courses for which the entry level is BTech, for which the entry level is MTech. So these skills are required at the higher level. For example, now if somebody wants to go in for VLSI design, now VLSI design is a skill. It is a skill. And this skill is for those people who have already completed a course in, say, Bachelor of Technology or Bachelor of Engineering in Electronics and Communication, and they have 1 year of experience. So they can go in for certain level of courses in VLSI design. It's a skill. So the NCRF says that you can have 50% up to 50% of credits from the skilling, and the skilling has to be at the appropriate level. Appropriate level means that has to be at the level of the degree or the post-graduation. And 50% you can have from the academics. And the mix of two will give you the final degree. Even today, we are doing something similar, but we are not actually differentiating between a skill and a lab work. And lab work, I would say, will not give you that kind of exposure what a complete skill course would give you. So similarly, programming is a skill. Programming in Python is a skill which we have approved at in NCVT. Cyber security, we have approved skills. Similarly, CAD/CAM design, we have approved skills. So skill is even at the higher level, level 4.5, level 5, level 5, level 6, level 6.5, and level 7. So all these skills are available. Issue with equivalence.
So thank you very much, sir. I think now time is over. So we have come to the last points of the agenda in the meeting. Before the formal vote of thanks, we have a tradition of participating in the assembly sessions. So the persons who have participated virtually, we also extend our virtual felicitations to you all. Thank you once again, sir. If you would have come here, we would have gladly benefited you in many ways. So thanks once again.
Thank you, Professor Sitaram Rao-ji. Thank you so very much.
Sir,
I have another meeting, so I would like to make you. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
So thank you once again, sir, for your kind acceptance and participating. Now we have only our speaker who participated physically, Professor BRAOU garu. Since he is here, we are felicitating you. Sir, kindly accept our token of respect to you. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Ravinder, we also extend oral felicitations to you. Thank you once again. I request Ravindra Salman to propose vote of thanks. No presidential polling laws.
Good evening, everyone. Consider it my honor and privilege to be a part of this wonderful meeting and propose a formal vote of thanks to conclude this seminar on implementation of National Education Policy 2020, a way forward. On behalf of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University Center for Staff Training and Development, I'd like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all our esteemed guests. A special thanks to our chief guest, Professor R. Limbadri, Chairman, Telangana State Council of Higher Education, Government of Telangana, for accepting our invitation to deliver the inaugural address. The vision and challenges expressed by Professor Limbadri will remain a guiding light for all of us to march upon. Thank you, sir, for your candid thoughts on the National Education Policy 2020. I thank Professor B.J. Rao, Vice Chancellor, University of Hyderabad, for his talk on implementation of NEP in state universities, issues and challenges. Professor Rao was of the view that NEP being futuristic will certainly be the way forward for a better educational system. Lack of innovation is the main setback of the present system, and we were not able to produce out-of-the-box thinkers, not able to produce fearless minds. NEP is needed to undo this damage, as it encourages going beyond content and reaching towards conceptualization. Thank you, sir, for your talk. I am also thankful to Dr. N.S. Kalsi, Chairperson, NCBT, New Delhi, for speaking on adaptation of National Credit Framework. And also thank Dr. Nina Pahuja, Executive Member of NCBT, who gave us an overview of NCRF, which envisages integrating vocational education with the regular education. My gratitude to Professor G. Ravinder, Vice Chancellor of Usmania University, and also the EC member of our own university for being present online on this occasion and giving us valuable inputs in providing a way forward for implementation of NEP 2020. Your address was very knowledgeable and thought-provoking, sir. Thank you for your address. I express my thankfulness to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Sitaram Rao, sir, for inspiring us to work hard. His able guidance has always encouraged us. His stewardship, support, vision, and commitment have been pillars of strength in all our endeavors. I also thank our Director Academic in Charge, Professor Sudha Rani, who has been supportive of all the initiatives taken by CSTD and encouraged the center to go the extra mile. The vision of NEP 2020 was presented in a captivating and vivid manner, which I'm sure has helped the audience to get a better glimpse into the NEP. Thank you, ma'am, for enlightening us with a commendable talk on this subject, highlighting the virtues of the NEP. No event or seminar can take shape without a hardworking leader. It was the dedication and enthusiasm of Director CSTD, Professor I. Anand Pawar, the brain behind this seminar, the torchbearer who has left no stone unturned to make this event happen. His meticulous planning and resolve helped this seminar see the light of the day. He has put in his best efforts to ensure that the audiences make the best use of this seminar. Thank you, sir. I also thank all the deans, directors, and heads of branches for gracing the inaugural and making it worthwhile. My thanks are due to the Computer Center, the engineering branch for arranging the logistics without any glitches, the EMMRC for the recording, and the PRO for ensuring wide publicity to this event. Last but not least, I thank all the non-teaching staff and those who worked behind the scenes for their efforts to make this event a grand success. I will be failing in my duty and role if I do not thank all the online participants who have been with us all through. Thank you everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.